Greetings, Dr. Jeffrey Scott. This is my weekend market update for Labor Day weekend, Sunday 9/1/2024. Sorry for the delayed doing this, but I was out on my boat down in Miami enjoying too much sun as I am burnt to a crisp. Um, my name again is Jeffrey Scott, and my email address for any comments, positive or negative, is hgsidoc@gmail.com. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the alarm so you get notified when I post these. And if you like what I do, please hit the thumbs up because that helps me get more attention from the folks at YouTube and get me better placement. This is for educational purposes only. Any recommendations are in the spirit of education, not an investment advice. Investment advice. I am a doctor, not a broker. I paid for all the tools that I use. I'm not affiliated with any large software vendor. I am independent. I do have some folks I'll mention, Van, who programs some stuff in TradeStation. I guess Rob Hoffman is a large software vendor, but they created some tools for me which they sell on wealth charts. And Praveen has created some indicator sets within TradingView, and we're about to launch a top-down trading app, which I think will be very attractive in the market. I paid for the tools I use, and trading involves risk, and you're solely responsible for any investment decisions you make. We'll probably look at a lot of stock charts, and I'll give a lot of my thoughts as we go. Just make sure you remember this is only about education, and I have none of the licenses that I would need to advise you what to buy and sell. If you like this, but hey, you want it shorter and you want it to be just wealth charts, go to stocksanddocs.com where I put something out every day. It's something I look forward to do. If I'm traveling, I usually mention I'm going to be traveling and not going to be there the next day. But it's 5 minutes on a quiet market, 12, 13 on a big market, and love to have you check it out. I don't get your name and email if you fill out the thing in the lower right-hand corner, but what they do is they just push it to you. I dictate them sometime late at night or early morning, and then they get posted around 8:30. Major markets tell the story, so I always like to see what happened with the markets, and I look at a lot of things, but I focus on the yellow ones. So one thing to look at, you can see the Qs and the Q equal weights, or the NASDAQ rather, were both down almost 1%. So, the markets had some challenges this week. On the other hand, the Dow was up 1.1%, setting a pretty much all-time high at the close. If you look at the NYSE, the S&P 500 were equal weight, were both up about 1%, so the broader doing better. Large cap S&P was up 0.3, and the NASDAQ equal weight was actually positive 0.1, and the Russell was flat on the week. So not a lot happened this week. A lot happened just when you look at the close. And you could see over here the moves on Friday were pretty significant and helped to for some of the markets to help them end the week in much better shape. Here are the S&P 500 sectors. I look sometimes at the S&P 500 sector, some at the S&P 15, and I'll try and clarify which I'm looking at. And you could see led this week by financials, industrials, and materials. The laggards, technology, discretionary, and communications. Not necessarily a big surprise because these are the tech laden from the Qs that were laggards. Here's the Q Edge tool. So this is a tool that looks at the S&P 1500, and it tells me on Friday all the stocks in the S&P 1500 were up. On Thursday, 10 were up and 1 were down. So the market finished the week pretty strong. It also shows me on Friday 91% of the sectors were up. Actually, this is Friday. So Friday was 10 and 1. Real time is the weekend, so there's nothing there. So Friday, 91% of the sectors were up, 85% of the industry groups, and 77% of the stocks. So you probably had a nice day in the market. We'll talk more about the buckets later. And if you look back over 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, and really over a month, we have more green than red showing that there's been strength come back in the market. What's different is I think we're seeing a broadening out of the market. And when I looked at my 1,000 stocks today, I certainly saw a lot more participation than we were seeing a couple months ago. This is a combination NYSE and NASDAQ in Metastock. It's a Q Edge tool by Sagar. And this kind of a magenta color there, that was a Phoenix signal that fired on Wednesday. And that just tells me that the market is not necessarily real healthy. And that that's a concerning sign. So even though we've gone sideways here at an all-time high, that Phoenix is bothersome. Now the corollary or the opposite of the Phoenix are these green things here, which are called eurekas, which are bullish breath signals. So the combination of that Phoenix, and we'll show you in some of the other programs, the fact that we saw some Hindenburg omens, this market remains at risk. Here breaks down the NASDAQ on the left, the NYC on the right, and this double line here, when this blue line gets up there, then we are overbought, oversold when it's down here, and we've come off overboughtness here and on the NYSE. So that's a good sign, and that's looking at the major index at the 13-week new high, new low. When we look at the components, we could see that the Russell 2000 has come off extended, the NASDAQ 100 has, but we still are extended on the S&P 1500, 500, and on the Dow. So with that much extension, I think there's a lot more, still more risk to this market. Rates were up on economic data. I think we're at a point where the rates have come down so much that they're moving up when we have positive economic data, because that's reassuring to the markets that we're not going to see a hard landing. So I don't think these rates bouncing in the setting of the data is as concerning as perhaps when we looked at rates on runs up. Recession. Well, we had something happen this week. 10 minus 3 month, nothing happened. However, the 10 minus 2 year actually turned positive, and you could see the last couple of days are up here. Now it finished at 0, meaning we are at a point where we're going to revert, and typically that signals a recession is coming, and that might spook the market some. So that's one thing to put in the what's going to hurt sentiment. Markets, if you look at stocks above the 200, stocks above the 40, and we are still come down a little bit on the 13-week new high, new low, but we're still extended by many means. When we get up into areas up at the top, it's when markets have historically reversed. The current buckets tell me that 88% of the stocks in the S&P 1500 are above the midline of their Bollinger Bands. That means 88% are in uptrends. And that is something that, to me, is concerning, because when you start getting up to 90% and more, the market's had a big run and is probably getting to a point where a pullback is possible. If you look at the left-hand side, you only got about 7% of stocks above their Bollinger Bands. I'd expect it to go as high as 30% before the markets reverse. So we're not there yet. Hindi alert, left NASDAQ, right NYSE common, and you could see we even had a Hindi on Wednesday on the NASDAQ, the day we had that Phoenix. You could see we're still under active Hindis this month on both the NYSE commons and the NASDAQ, and if I looked at all NYSE, that too. Interesting thing is, despite that, the number of new lows remains very small on the major indexes, and the number of new highs, the good news is they're high. The bad news, especially on the NYSE, 14% are at 52-week highs in the NYSE. That might scare me on this market getting a little bit overbought. That's a pretty big number. Now, if we looked at the markets, I don't know if I'd say they turned down. They were really flat on the week. In fact, if you look at relative EPS rank versus gain, really no correlation to earnings. If you look at relative strength versus gain, those that had low relative strength actually did poorly, which to me is a good thing. And if group rank, really no relationship. I threw out the tail and the head because the number of stocks are small. Pretty flat and pretty low is when I look at it. Know your news and earnings. Lots of things about the economy this week's unemployment, ISM services, beige book, job openings, ISM manufacturing. So some of that will move the market. I think what the market is looking to hear is, hey, we're recovering, there's a soft landing, and the numbers come out on the economy in whether it's employment or other numbers, they come out at predictions and not weak. If we look at earnings, you could see nothing on Monday, of course, with the Labor Day holiday, but you could see we've got some earnings still left. So the massive earnings is done. And as I say here, it's a judgment call to hold stocks over earnings dates. It's bad judgment to not know when your stock's earnings date is scheduled. So market thoughts. Good rally on Friday as market participants end into the week on a high note before the 3-day weekend. Indices closed the week mixed. Dow at all-time highs. Stock market had to look and put in a lot of work, whether it was NVIDIA, whether it was personal income and spending, retailer earnings and technology stories, and had to digest that. As I mentioned, the 10-2 yield curve reverted to normal, and I think that is potentially an issue. Market strength seemed to correspond with the theme of soft landing, falling inflation data with decent employment and economic data. When that theme has been challenged by data releases, the markets have pulled back. I think a pullback here would not be surprising. We have negative seasonality early in the month. We have changing U.S. election. What's the word I would have? Predictions. We have the normalization of the yield curve, lagging of the NASDAQ, especially large cap tech. And the markets remain extended by many measures. And we still have those active Hindenburg signals. So I have to temper my enthusiasm a bit. So I've taken some profits, but I'm still mostly long. I will be nimble and quick to consider going to cash and potentially short when my market timing model goes negative, short or buy contra ETFs. So this could be a change of week. As the market seems to be at risk of topping, I found many well-performing stocks, but so many of them were extended. I did note that many of these leaders demonstrated my favorite setups for the recent run. So what I'm going to do is look back at some of these stocks, showing various programs, and then I'll introduce you to our new trading app. And I'll use a number of programs. I know some people get upset when I do anything but wealth charts, and I get that. I mean, Rob has done a great job of helping me. But I am going to show some of the other things that I use and hopefully give you a good story of how I do what I do. So on to the charts. So I just want to show you, this is a chart from HGSI. HGSI, which is www.highgrowthstock.com, I'm not affiliated with it, is a program that was made for Ian Woodward, really, to continue his teachings. And so much of what I do came from Ian, whether it's kahunas, the Morales and Catcher pocket pivots. This green bar correlates to this arrow, which is a John Person buy signal. Mobile breakouts from a squeeze and the bongo. And those red lines are Hindenburg omens. So much of what I do. Now, what I love to find is not only my dots firing and wealth charts or the other programs. I love it when we take out some form of resistance. And this line here is the chandelier stop. So I can actually scan in Thinkorswim for a chandelier stop with flip and a PPS buy. So we can look at some of these. Let's try to remember Bridge Bio, because that one that came up on a lot of scans. So I have a scan that can help me find when this flips from a sell red to a buy. When that happens with my dots, it's something that gets me excited. Here was Equifax. It broke out about 250 and ran up to 310. Here's Allison Transmission. Uptrend, pullback, kind of a deep saucer. And here it is. There's the red line of the chandelier stop. There's the flip here with a person bull buy signal, mobile breakup from a squeeze, and a kahuna got its pocket pivot a couple days later. You'll notice that some of these stocks that have had deep pullbacks, the weekly bongo is red. I am totally fine with that. I think that if you wait until a stock that's giving you all the other signals you're looking for gets you a perfection there with the bongo turning as well, you missed a couple of days of the run. So I will still look at those stocks. Yes, I'd rather see the weekly bongo green. Here's reality income. And here is one that I was watching, and it broke above the 50 with a PSAR reversal. At the same time, we had a mobile breakup from a squeeze, person buy signal back here, pocket pivots and kahunas. Now this one might have been concerning because it was the same time we were seeing Hindenburgs in the market, but reality income broke out at about 55 and traded up, 15% in a very short period of time. Here's U.S. Food Holdings, the same pattern again. Here is the chandelier stop. Here is two bongos kahunas in a row. And let me tell you, that's a strong signal when you see that. A pocket pivot and a mobile breakout from the squeeze and a quick run of 12%. Here's one that's setting up right now. L3 Harris, LHX. And so why I say it's setting up? Because it took out the chandelier stop on Friday. It did not have a person buy, so it didn't show up in the scan. It's had a mobile breakup from the squeeze. It had a fresh pocket pivot. So this is one that I'm interested in that I'll be looking at the week goes by. And then here's SS&C Technologies. And here's that story again, big sideways move. And here you go, mobile breakup from the squeeze, a big move, taking out moving averages, a person buy, pocket pivot in kahunas. So that is the pattern I like. And my mission is how do I find them? And here's Cheniere Energy, taking out the 200 and taking out the chandelier stop down here, 162 up to 186 in a short period of time. These are not historic trades. These are all active trades right now. And here's another one that looks very interesting to me. Enviri, and I'm just curious, did this show up on my scan and Thinkorswim? I believe it did. Nope, it might not be in the list I'm scanning for. What am I looking for? All stocks? Nope. All right, so here's Enviri with the chandelier stop reversed on Friday. Took it out here, mobile breakup from a squeeze, bongo's green, two kahunas in a row. I love that signal. And looking back here, this was another great signal where my arrow is. So a lot to like there. And then how about Coca-Cola Euro Pacific Partners? Same pattern. Kahuna, person buy, taking out the chandelier stop, mobile breakout from a squeeze. Now, yeah, I could have just picked 4 or 5 stocks that looked great and tell you that it works all the time. Nothing works all the time. Okay, it works. It's something that has worked very well for me, and that's a pattern that I look for when I enter longs. So we're going to start here in wealth charts looking at the weekly timing model. And remember, this is the weekly price above the 30 period WMA, and a green bongo is a buy. It stays in place as a buy until both reverse. We have been in a buy since November 6th in the spiders. Wouldn't you have liked to have been long the entire time? The Qs are struggling. The bongo has not flipped. We had a red candle on the week, down 0.78, but we are still above the WMA, so I put that at neutral. The diamonds are all-time highs and green, still in a buy on the weekly. And the Russell's moved up nicely over the last several weeks, well above the WMA and the bongo's green. So the longer-term markets, the weeklies are in buys. And then the daily markets are, you've got green and in a buy on the spiders, green and in a buy on the Russell, green and a buy in the Dow, but you still, even though you are above the 30 period WMA, you're still mixed on the Qs, but on the daily it's never flipped below with the red bongo. So you're still technically in a buy on all 4 on the dailies. So it's hard for me to be totally bearish when I see this strength in the market. Now, one of the things I like about wealth charts is just the full-fledged, so much that this thing has in it. So I just want to pull that forward a week, pull this forward a week. So I'm looking here from August 27th, that's the last, okay, and I'm to September 25th, so 4 weeks, starting with the week that just closed. And if we look at the spider, you could see, we've talked about it before, we've got a seasonally negative period of time. One of the questions that I've asked is, did we satisfy the beast with this pullback right here, and do we go higher? But you can see here, 5 gains, 5 losses, average performance minus 1.44. The Qs are up here as well. You're going to see the same pattern here. Again, did we satisfy the beast there? 5 gains, 5 losses minus 1.26. We can look at the Russell, and you'll see the same thing. And 3 gains, 7 losses, average 1.09. And if I just type in the diamonds, you could see the same pattern, and over the next month, 5 and 5. So at the minimum, we've got some weaker seasonality. And again, the question is, did the seasonality get pulled forward, and are we done going down and just going to go to higher highs? I don't know, but I think we have to at least be aware of that seasonality. If we look at the indices in this past week, and we'll start with the spiders, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is up here as the prior close, and you could see Monday, Tuesday we stayed below that. Wednesday we had a pretty steep sell-off. Thursday a nice rally, sold off late in the day, and Friday we rallied and closed up on the week and above the high of the session. When I look at the other indices, you see the same basic pattern on all of them. The one that did the best, though, is that mid or Russell? Let's take a look. There's mid caps, and there is the Russell, similar pattern. That was Qs are same pattern. The Dows are the one that really led on the week. If I look at the daily S&P 500, you could see that white line says we're looking for some negative divergence at the highs, but it hasn't turned red yet, so we haven't seen it, or it hasn't confirmed. On the day, up 0.95, not far from all-time highs. You could see the close is within this bar, but not yet at a new closing high. We got nice support with a 50-day underneath. If we look at the Qs, and that's the one that perhaps has been more concerning, still sitting on the 50, which is good. Recovered it on Friday, and that's really important, I believe. But it's we know the bongo, daily bongo and weekly bongo are red, and that's been a concern. If I look at the diamonds, these are the champs right now, all-time high close. What's not to like? Are we getting extended? We're getting extended. And then lastly, the Russell 2000. You could see not a big change, up 0.5%, sort of consolidating after a recent run, but it's consolidating above support, and that's nice. If we look at the VIX weekly, on the week it was down 5%. If we look at the dollar, it on the week, let's look at the weekly dollar. Kind of reversed some of the weakness in the prior week, but sometimes strength in the dollar, especially when it's at recent lows, maybe it's a good sign that our economy is not in trouble. So I'm not sure that that's a bad thing. The dollar getting strong, it might be tough for commodities. You could see gold at all-time highs, down 0.71. Silver had a wealth EMS come in, was down 1.72. Oil back down to 200, down a lot, 3%. And just like the dollar, we're seeing some modest movement in the 10-year. So the 10-year was up 1.06, but I'm not sure that's a bad thing. Now, when I looked at the sectors hourly to get a sense of what's working, what's not working, it's pretty clear who gets the star for the session. And the star goes to financials. And we've been talking about financials for days, because financials include things like insurance, which have been red hot. So we'll put that there so remember, but let's see what else. Materials are strong, communications no, energy no, industrials look good, tech sold off. The defensive plays are still holding staples, real estate, utilities, and healthcare. But the clear winner here is financial. So one thing I might consider doing is looking at financial stocks, and biotech looks okay as well. So from a top-down perspective, I like, I look at probably financials to start. So I find this tool to be very useful. These are hourly ratio charts of the S&P sector versus the spider, and it helps guide me to what's working right now. All right. Now, as part of a top-down investor, I'm always going to start by looking at the market. And I'm not going to show anything different here. It's in TradeStation. The timing signal incorporates the Hindenburg Omen. These are weekly charts, and you could see we're above the WMA across the board, but the bongos are still red for a number of weeks on the Qs. One thing I like about this is the auto trend line feature from Sagar's Q tools for TradeStation. So this is not my tool. I wish it was. It's just a great trend line tool. But if you notice, the E-minis are up against resistance. The NASDAQ is up against resistance. The Russell is up against resistance. Now the dollar is just in free-form territory at all-time highs. That should bother me, the resistance. If I look at the markets themselves, Spider, Qs, and Russell are at resistance. So that has to temper my enthusiasm, and part of why would not be surprised if we saw a turn down. And this is just the commodities. There's not a whole lot to show you there. Now, how do I do top-down trading? Let me show you my 3 favorite ways for looking at sectors and industry groups. My favorite way to be surprised, because it's not what my tools. It's in HDSI, and it's the ability of looking at the markets, but once I decide my direction, they have preformed groups, and the group I'm going to look at is industry groups. And I like to rank the industry groups by 2-day force, and then just rank them by the combo here. And what comes up to the top is large pharma, and I can change to the industry group. And of course, this is a great performer. Something like Lilly comes right to the top. Now, the beauty of this program is I have a lot more customization, and I could pick different tools that I might want to use for ranking. Now, Wealth Charts, to be fair, Wealth Charts doesn't use price change or something like that. Wealth Charts inside of the sector scanner, which is also a very good interpretation of top-down, uses the algo score. So again, Wealth Charts includes almost everything I'm going to show you, and for many of us, it's become a go-to product for that. So you can do that here, and if you just rank the daily, there's your financials, real estate, and utilities, sort of a defensive play. You look at what's been leading on the weekly, the same things. How about on the monthly? I'm not going to put energy, hit compare. That brings in the different industry groups from the 3 sectors we picked. You rank by daily algo, and you can pick how many you want to pick. So these are the daily leaders, and these are kind of defensive looking. REITs, utilities, you look at the weekly, algo, anything that we missed, financial exchanges, REITs, retail. And then once I've identified these groups, I can hit compare, and it's going to list me the stocks in those groups, and then I can rank these and figure out which are the best ones. Great tool. I find nothing bad about that. Now, some of us have TradeStation, and they don't have Wealth Charts. So what I did is I created a basket I call max ETFs, and then I'll rank them by that same 2-day force and get a sense of what's moving the most. Now it's interesting, FANG up had a good end of the week. The Spider IVV, another S&P 500. This is a semiconductors, was down a little bit from the open, but net percent change. So the semiconductors rallied. There's the stocks. Let's pause this for a second. Now, it may be that 2 days is too short, so I could look at a 13-day force, which is probably too long, and that shows me IWB, Russell 1000, mid-cap spiders, diamonds, and then if I work my way through, here's that semiconductors again. Here is XHB home builders. So I can play around with various ways of ranking them, and so I've done that, and it turns out I like the 5-day force as in between. And I'll look through and see what's up at the top. And are semiconductors going to run again? Now, what's cool, I could scan down on the bottom. Let me remove those because they're no longer trading. And I could go add a group from list. And let's look at symbol list. And built into TradeStation are the industry groups. So it's technology, semiconductors, hit OK, and now I could actually pull in, and I've got so many charts I've got, or things open, I'm going to get the E's, but I can actually pull in here the various semiconductors, and I can do the same ranking tool on that industry group. I think that's pretty cool. It gives me a chance to figure out what's really working right now, what things should I look at. Let me kill this because it's going to kill what I'm looking at, and then I'll have to reset TradeStation. What I also did, and my friend Van built this for me, is since I'm looking at specific types of signals, what he did is he said, let's go and let's do that. Let's look at the Reuters symbol group, industry groups. Let's look at technology, semiconductors, and hit OK. And let's hit start, and it's going to look at those real quick. And you'll notice that these are the signals that we talked about at the beginning of this section of things that were how they work for me and what I found. And so I like to take this list and rank them by up dots, and Intel was on that list. Now, I'm not sure if I want to buy Intel. When I say that list, Intel was on the list of the chandelier stop flip. Look at the dots. It had EMS, CPR, which is, a Bible gap up, volume, breakout momentum. This is the CPR, that's the EMS. So all these things turned positive, and even the relative strength versus the spider turned up, although on the weekly it's very, very weak. Not saying I would buy Intel here, but it showed up as a signal. Now I can filter these by going filter results, and let's open some of my favorite things, and let's open pullbacks and uptrend. See if any of these will fit the pullbacks and uptrend. And I got two of them. Skyworks. Well, you have to trust me, there was an uptrend there, but you have an uptrend, a pretty long pullback, and it's running on the lower line. That actually looks pretty good. So that's one I might be interested in. I don't like the fact that it's probably capped up here at 118. That's not a big enough move for me. The other one that made the list was on semiconductor. It doesn't look so great for me. So the filtering, sometimes it gives you great things, sometimes it doesn't. But what we've done is we've ranked the stocks in that list. I mean, Marvell, a lot of people are talking about this one now. Red close, broke out of resistance here. It's got some resistance right here, but to me it's worth looking at. So there's a lot of things that you can do with the scanners. Again, the same types of things that you see in wealth charts. Now, what makes wealth charts so good? Well, you don't have to have TradeStation. You don't have to go out and buy somebody else's tools, my tools. But with wealth charts, you have the CAT scanner, which is an external purchase of $970, I think, one-time payment, $997. And you can rank by the dots. And here's that bridge bio that I looked at before. Now, big volume, breakout, momentum, big gap. The only thing I don't like about it is it's got the 200 above, but that's a pretty strong reversal signal. MDB, MongoDB, also a stock that's been in a downtrend, but kind of a W formation on the bottom. and a big breakout taking out the 50-day. And even though I prefer buying things that are above the 200, this thing could run up to 340 from 290 before it got into the, am I going to get resistance there? APLT. All right, here's a stock that's in a pretty nice uptrend. It's a cheap stock. And what happened on Friday? It pulled back into the 17, and then a big volume breakout momentum out of a squeeze with good relative strength in OBV. Don't know anything about Applied Therapeutic. ATO, Atmos Energy. Utilities were something that people have interested in, especially in the setting of high risk in the market. And here's one that's at its highs, sitting on the 17. And what happened on Friday? In a squeeze, it had volume, breakout, and momentum. Relative strength, not quite there. OBV looks good and not extended. So we could look at financials because we identified that financials might be good. Now, spoiler alert, I looked at a lot of insurance stocks, and anything that's not extended now is probably a laggard. But here is Agri Realty, and this is under financials. Big run up, sideways move, perhaps is getting ready to run. Here's AJ Gallagher. This is an insurance company. So many of them look like this. You look down here, the high jump, maybe not above 95, but these things are pretty extended. I'd rather find a pullback. Ares Management, this is a money management group, kind of like, I think, KKR. It's in a subtle uptrend, little pullback, and on Friday had big volume breakout and momentum coming out of no squeeze now, but relative strength and OBV are setting up. So I could go down this list, and typically I do, to see if there's anything that's going to stand out as something that I might want to be chasing after. All right, so that's another thing that I might do. Now, in HGSI, I'm a big fan of HGSI, and I actually coded things in. So if I go into all security, so I got a list of 11,000 things, and then I created a pullbacks and uptrend, and I could look for price move above stop, and I want to have at least a PPS buy, and these are the ones that came out, and several of these are attractive. Novavax, they got approval of their vaccine. I don't like cheap stocks, and I'm not advocating it as a doctor. The fact they got a U.S. approval of their vaccine for them is a big move, and they have been a laggard, but they had pocket pivots, a mobile breakout, a person indicator fall on Friday. Every is one that shows up on a lot of my scans. I showed this one earlier to you, and this is one that pulled back and is breaking out right now. This is the pattern that I like, and one that's on my buy watch list for this week. Now, the other thing I thought was interesting is the refiners look like they're poised to break out. I don't know if it's time we're switching from summer to winter fuel. They've been in a big downtrend, but almost all of them had the same pattern. Now, again, I don't like downtrends, but I had a PPS buy, John Person buy. I had a pocket pivot. I had a kahuna. I had a mobile breakout from the squeeze. And you look at their fundamentals, and they've got negative earnings per share growth. But is this just a time for these? Who else is there? Like Valero is another one. About to take out the 200 and have a PSAR flip, mobile breakout from a squeeze. New PPS buy, pocket pivot kahuna. I think MPC is the refiner. I don't remember. Yep, Maryland Petroleum. Long base. The longer the base, the higher in space. Mobile breakout, a John Person buy, a pocket pivot, and a kahuna. So something's going on with the refiners. Okay. Now, how did I find them? You found them here. So this is a great tool. Now I created this for myself, not the program, of course, but the various scans here. This is another one, AGRO, agricultural producers. Not usually where I buy stuff, but here's one where um, pocket pivot, a new John person buy, and it just took out its chandelier stop. That's why it was also on the trade station scan. Anything else that looked really good? Now, Spirit Aerosystems, they get dragged into a lot of the Boeing issues. But nice uptrend, pull back to the 50, free parking with a mobile breakout. This and a John person buy, that was another one. So I'm looking for a specific type of buy. So I use a lot of different programs. I use HGSI. I use wealth charts. Within TradingView, let's just go look at Intel and TradingView. My programmer in TradingView's name is Praveen, and he did a great job of building in the indicators that we like into TradingView, and you could see here it is, massive number of dots coming out of a squeeze. Hard to believe you're going to get a big bounce of Intel with their big layoffs and changes that are going on. And you could see they missed on surprise minus 80, minus 1 on revenue, 80 on earnings. So the stock's in a world of hurt. Not sure I'd be running after it. AGRO. In a nice little uptrend here. Seasonality looks okay. Riding the trend line. It had the July earnings had a 30% surprise on revenue. I don't have anything on earnings. Let's see. So earnings came out and matched. Revenue was a nice beat. All right, so I've got my tools here as well. Now what TradingView doesn't have is a scanner. So to be clear, you can scan in thinkorswim. thinkorswim doesn't come with a zillion things in the box, but you can scan in thinkorswim. You can scan in TradeStation, and there are tools on the market to help you do that. Wealth Charts, even without my tools, has a decent scanner. It's got a great scanner. For what I do, I needed my tool set, and I'm so appreciative that Rob created the scanner for me. But although I didn't think I wanted a real-time scanner, over the last couple of years, I've convinced myself that I want a real-time scanner. So let me introduce to you, we're not even named it, let's just call it Market MRI Pro. And this is a real-time top-down tool. So it starts on the top with various stock lists. I use the JAS list for everything I do because it's 33, 34, it's like $2 and 150,000 shares, so I don't leave things out. It updates intramarket every time you hit the refresh scanner. When I look at ranking them by dots, interesting, one stock that came up is Amazon. Now Amazon is one of these, what's the word I want to use? Sluggish big cap tech. You can see it's come off of 202 down to 172. If you want to watch it in TradeStation, just hit open in TV. And opened it up in the wrong one. Okay, let me change this so I'll just do that. So try that again. It opens it up into the last thing you used. Go back here, open in TV. I don't know why it's doing that. So let's just go here and change it to Amazon. AMZN. So you've had a pretty big sell-off, about to break out a line of resistance. Seasonality looks okay. You look here, it had a 22% earnings surprise for August. Revenue came in flat. Lots of dots came in Friday. I think Amazon looks interesting. So one way, again, I'll search by looking at the dots. A-Mark Precious Metals, Don't know anything about it, but I like the uptrend, pullback, and breaking out. That's a funny bar on Friday with a long bottoming tail. All right. Bridge Bio is one we've looked at before. I don't like buying things below the 200, but I'm going to keep my eye on it. Intel made it. No surprise. It made it in all the other programs. Amazon made it. And this is interesting. What a good place to buy Amazon, sitting on the 200-day moving average. If you believe the stock is going to continue, the company's going to continue to well, you're not buying it at free parking, which is the 50. You're buying it earlier. Now you pay 179. You'd have to have your stop no worse, perhaps, than that 200. You have to decide what your comfort level is. So you're going to have a 4 or 5% risk, but I think there's a good chance that Amazon holds that 200 and goes higher. Atra, Biotherapeutics, no thanks. BLCO, Bausch and Lomb. It's an old name. It's in an uptrend here. Lots of topping stuff here. CBZ, don't know this name. So as you could see, in Futu I liked this week. Futu here has a bunch of dots. It's got 4 dots and took out the 50-day moving average. So that's something that looks very attractive to me right there. Now here's something that people have not seen before, top down. So I have a way of ranking. I just call it JF. We'll come up with a name for it before we release it. Industrials on top, technology and financial services all are the leading JFs. So let's look at industrials. Here's a list of all the industrial stocks. I could rank them by number of up dots and look at, here's CBIZ, CLCO, and look at them this way. Or what I could do is rank them by JF, and the leader is GWW, WW Granger. Now that's one that looks interesting to me. Big uptrend, pullback, nice uptrend again, a pullback and a breakout here. Okay. TDG is just an expensive stock. Hard to buy a lot of a 1372 stock. Lennox International. So it's finding me the leader stocks, and I could go down. This is what top down is about. Now let's say I want to break this more and I want to go in the leading industry group within industrials, and that would be industrial distribution. And there's Granger, WSO, Watsco, Pool, not so good, WCC. So by far the driver is Granger. Okay. The second one is construction. There's Lennox International, Train, CSL, Carlisle Companies. They make wood, I think, wood products. Owings Corning. So you're getting some of the better looking stocks are moving up. Okay. The second group was technology. We clip on technology and let's just rank by JF. What comes to the top is MDB. Now MDB has had a massive move. I think we already talked about this. It could run all the way up to 342, which is the 200. All right. Now, ServiceNow. Everybody talks about this as actually could be a winner in the AI world. So again, we could look at all of them, or we could rank and see what comes to the top. And the top one was software and then semiconductors. Well, let's go back to semiconductors. So these are the semiconductors in our list. I rank by JF. CLAC, KLAC. Pullback sideways, looks like it's going to go higher. Another LRCX, too far below 200. Marvell, we already talked about, as a big move here. You know, it finished in the upper part, but it finished low on the day. I still think that's an interesting move. A very expensive stock, ASML, sitting on its 200 like Amazon, probably not my cup of tea. NXPI, So this is looking at force. At the same time, I could have run up by the number of up. Let me turn off the JF and look at Intel again. And again, it's not my cup of tea. Skyworks has shown up on a number of lists. A nice breakout above the 50 on Friday in Skyworks. So I probably confused you more than I helped you. But I mean, the point is, I don't care if you use, well, I hope you use Wealth Charts. I think it's a great program. But I really don't, which program you use, whether it's Wealth Charts, TradeStation, Thinkorswim, HDSI, or TradingView. The one thing TradingView doesn't have is a scanner, and that's why we built this scanner to support TradingView. It's not quite ready for market yet. We've got a few more things we're going to do, some market timing stuff we're going to add. But Praveen will be bringing this to market soon. So I started by showing you patterns that I like. I then looked at how I look at the market, my market timing model, which we've got to bring into the app. I looked at a sector industry group rotation model, Wealth Charts, HGSI, TradeStation, and the trading app here, the Market MRI Pro. And then I went down and looked at some chart patterns and talked about what I liked and what I didn't like. I don't think it matters which program you use, but what you got to do is pick a system that works for you, whether it's my stuff or not my stuff, and get proficient at using it. So let me know what you think. Any questions about the different platforms I use? People like to look at the things that made my buy watch, so why don't we do this? Since I'm not quite at an hour, I'm going to go back into HGSI, old school, bring up my buy watch, and rank it by scorecard. Perfect. And now I am going to go through very quickly some of the stocks that I curated this week from looking at over 1,000 charts. Now, of course, I looked at my 1,000 charts when I was on my boat. So may not be as good as they typically are because I was having too much fun on my boat. All right. New. This is a financial company. We talked about financials being strong. Over here it tells me provides digital banking and technology platform, okay, in Sao Paulo. Well, that's interesting. Beautiful uptrend. Stubbed its toes here. Running here, had this belt hold signal candle on Friday. So it sort of sets up with a person buy, a mobile breakout, a kahuna on massive volume. Phillips 66, hold on, I want to go in the order from the top. Vertiv Holdings, automation control, beautiful uptrend, pull back, and a breakout above the 50 with a pocket pivot and a mobile breakout. Progressive Corp, this is one of these great breakouts. It's still going to go higher most likely, but you have to wonder a little bit about how aggressive you want to get on a stock that's already run, and you can see the high jump is up at the top. AppLovin, kind of ugly in here, but it's breaking out at new highs. I actually have a holding of that. Might look to add to it. Eli Lilly is a monster. I remember a long time ago I talked about this stock after this gap up here and told people to buy it. Again, I just showed it as a stock I liked educationally. I didn't tell them how many to buy or what to buy, but I thought Lilly was about to take a big run, and boy, did it ever. Is it ready to go again? Well, it's obviously a much higher risk buy right now because it's had such a big run, but they've got this great diabetes and weight loss franchise. Okay. Comfort Systems, you sort of got these lines here and breaking out. Fiat Aviation, Boy, what a leader. Be nice to get a pullback. Um, Great earnings per share growth. You can see the revenue growth has been pretty massive as well. Amazon, we've talked about. Visa, similar pattern, pull back to the 200 and now breaking out. Novo Nordisk, sort of a much lower cost way to participate in the diabetes and weight loss market. Arista Network sitting on the 50. ServiceNow, we've talked about. Shark Ninja, I used to think they were an energy play, but I guess what they are now is just a lot of products, household appliances. Pullback and a breakout. Extended, absolutely. It's had a big run, but Shark Ninja, an IPO. Waste management, big sideways move, pocket pivots, move up off the 50. YPF, a Argentinian, I believe, or Latin American oil, gas, integrated oil refining, breaking out after a long sideways move. Here we have MongoDB. Here's a big gap up below the 200. Best Buy, the last man standing in the publicly traded electronics form, big gap up. It's sort of flagging right now. Bridge Bio, I wish it was above the 200. I love the pattern otherwise. NRG Energy, sort of a similar pattern, got a little bit of a cup and a handle and breaking out here with a person's pivot, a Mobo breakout. Elevance Health, very similar pattern, breaking out. Trade Desk, I don't like what's happened here, but it had decent earnings and looks to be threatening to go higher. Amgen, sideways, gradual move up, and you got your mobile breakout, your pocket pivots. Looks interesting. Now, before I go further, I'm not telling you to buy any of these. What I'm showing you are stocks that made it through my scans. Excuse me. Many of them will have the buy signals that I like, or some of them. They're not all perfect. Equinix, mobile breakout, person's buy, pocket pivots, sitting on top of the 17 after a little pullback. Pulte Group, all of the home builders look like this. They've had massive runs. If rates are coming down, they probably go higher. General Dynamics, we looked at L3 Harris before. Here's another defensive play. Defense industry, sideways move, and you're breaking out with a new person buy, pocket pivots, Kahuna, mobile breakout from a squeeze. Waste Connections, just looks like it wants to go higher. Axos Financials, you had all the signals coming in here, and then a little pullback. Is it ready to go again? Cencora, the old AmerisourceBergen, mobile breakout from a squeeze, person buy, two kahunas in the last 3 days is usually a strong buy signal. Interdigital, this is a technology one I liked a lot, communications equipment. Gap up, sideways move, about to have a PSAR reversal, in a squeeze, had a mobile breakout 2 days in a row of a kahuna. That one looked interesting. Futu Holdings taking out the 50 with a pocket pivot, a kahuna, mobile breakout from a squeeze. Marathon Petroleum we looked at before, mobile breakout, person buy, pocket pivot, kahuna. Viking Therapeutics, a preclinical company that has some GLP-1 like drugs in study, very exciting. Could be a big competitor to Lilly and Novo Nordisk. This is when they had some positive data come out. This is a speculative play because if their data is negative, you lose. L3 Harris breaking out exactly like the stocks I showed you in the beginning. Digital Reality Trust sitting on the 50 with a mobile breakout from a squeeze, in a person buy, pocket pivot, and a kahuna. Ventas, in a big run here, probably too late to get on. Phillips 66, another refiner setting up, mobile breakout from a squeeze, person, pocket pivot and kahuna. Corebridge Financial just breaking out above the 50. EverQuote breaking out above the 50 with a reversal of the chandelier. Duke Energy looks like it's ready to run. You got mobile breakouts from a squeeze, person buy, pocket pivots and kahunas. Everini, we talked about this before. Set up here with all my signals, mobile breakout from a squeeze, a person and two kahunas in a row. A.O. Smith is an industrial distributor, needs to get, here's the chandelier stop. It could flip through it in a day or so. Mobile breakout from a squeeze, pocket pivots and kahuna. It's in a person buy already. Broadridge Financials about to take out its chandelier stop, worth watching. Unum Provident, a insurance company that wasn't too extended. Sun Communities got a breakout above the PSAR, but the signals are lining up. Fiat Infrastructure. I like this pattern a lot. Massive uptrend. Pull back to 50 and a breakout. Look at the mobile breakouts from the squeeze. Kahunas, person buys. Took out the chandelier stop. I like Fiat Infrastructure. Atmos Energy, I think we saw this in wealth charts too. Run up, sideways move, mobile breakout for a squeeze, person, pocket pivots, and kahunas. All the ingredients I like. American Waterworks looks like setting up. It's not there yet. Here's the chandelier stop. Might get there soon. I don't know why I picked Hut Hut because it's a Chinese hotel chain, so skip that. We're getting down the bottom list. I don't usually go with educational companies. This is Universal Technical Institute. Pull down to the 50. Here's a chandelier stop. A breakout above that will be what I'm looking for. Doesn't mean I'm buying this tomorrow. Plains Group Holdings, it's an MLP that pays 6.3% dividend. Sitting on the 50 with a mobile breakout, a John Person buy, pocket pivots, and a kahuna on Thursday. Catalent, I'll skip that one. Innovative Eye Care, I'm going to skip it. It's got to get above the 200. MDU Research Group, cement, sideways move, took out the chandelier stop on Friday. Mobile breakouts, pocket pivots, and kahunas. Invesco Mortgage Company, we'll skip that one. So those were some of the stocks that I looked at in various platforms, and I store them in here. Just because I talked about them, it doesn't mean you buy them. So the beautiful thing is there's a lot of programs in the market to help make our life easier. I went through some of the stocks. I liked them, how I look at top down. I hope you enjoy your Labor Day, and we'll see you next week. Stocksanddocs.com will be up there on Tuesday.